define section 4 is about fitting a model to data when we are working with exponentials. So we're going to go through kind of a similar process for all of them. So the first thing we're going to do is pick 2 points, and then we're going to find our A value, and remember our A value is like our starting amount. And then we're going to use that information and one of the points to find our B value. So you can kind of think about this like using 2 points to make a line, and we're going to use it to exponential. So instead of using mx equals b, we're going to use a times b to the x. So let's take a look at our first example. So example A, under the certain conditions, algae will grow exponentially in a pond. Suppose that there are 100 algae in a pond, and 3 hours later there are 200 algae. So we want to fit an exponential model. So our first step is to pick 2 points. Well, probably be a good idea if we could find 2 points and give us order pairs that give us information. So suppose there are 100 algae in the pond. So right now would be times 0, so it's 0, and there'd be 100 algae in the pond. 3 hours later, there are 200 algae, so that would be the order pair 3, and then 200. So sometimes you have to make the order pairs, but I think you should be okay with that. Step 2 is to find the A value. Well, just so happens, in this case, they give us the A value. So it is the starting amount, so I know I'm starting with 100. So now that I have 2 points and the A value, I can use step 3 where I'm going to substitute it in. Okay, so you should pick your point that is not your starting amount. So I have here x and y. So I know the general equation is y equals a times b to the x. So if I'm going to use this order pair, instead of using y, I can plug in 200. I know my starting amount is 100. I don't know b, that's what I'm solving for, and x here is 3. Okay, so just substituting in 3 for x, 200 for y, and then our a value. So to solve for b, I would divide each side by 100, so I get 2 equal b to the third. And from last chapter, you should know to get rid of the third power, we're going to raise each side to be 1/3, right? Raise it to the reciprocal. That's not being multiplied, that's raising it, so that's a power. So our b value turns out to be about 1.26. Now that I have an a and a b value, I can write my equation. So my equation is y equals 100 times 1.26 to the x. Okay, so there's our equation, and then I can answer the question, which says find the number of algae present after 24 hours. Well, now that's pretty straightforward. It tells me that 24 is my hours. So just plug in 24 for x, evaluate it out, and you should get about 25,639. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too tricky, but in case, we'll try it again. So example B, this time we're talking about the amount of sunlight that reaches the plant life underwater, okay, and it gives us a table of information. So this time we want to again fit an exponential model to data, but now it's given to us in a table. So I know that I can pick any 2 ordered pairs, okay, for my step 1, but if I'm going to give you a hint, okay, always pick your first one, because you need to know where you start. So one of your ordered pairs should always be your first one. To get a more accurate one, okay, you should pick one that isn't right next to it, so don't pick 10. Okay, so I'll pick the next set of data, which would be the ordered pair 21.15. Okay, so your 2 ordered pairs when you're given a table, definitely pick your first one. Okay, so you know your A value, and then pick anything where it's not right next to it. Okay, it's going to give you a little bit more of an accurate idea if you're a little bit further away. Okay, so step 2 is to find our A value, which is where we start off. So we know that we're starting off at 100. Step 3 is then to substitute it in so that we can solve. So again, I'm going to use my other ordered pair now. I know that x is 20 and y is 1.15. That's when I substitute that into my equation, which is y equals a times b to the x. I'll have 1.15 equals 100 times b to the 20th. Okay, so again, plugging in x and y to our equation. Again, solving for b, I'm going to divide by 100 first. So I'm going to get b to the 20th equal 0.0115. Okay, again, you always raise it to the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 20 is 1/20th. Okay, so raising each side to the reciprocal. You're going to get decimals. That is just fine. I ask that you round to about 3 spots. So in this case, I'd get about 0.7998. Okay, don't round up too much to the 0.8. Okay, that's not going to be very accurate. So then in that case, just multiply for decimal places. So now my equation is y equals 100 times 0.7998 to the x. Okay. You will get a slightly different decimal depending on what order pairs you pick, but you should be pretty close, which is why it's very important that you show your work. Alright, now that we have our equation, we should be looking into the question, which says find the percentage at 15 meters. So if I want to know 15 meters, we're just going to go ahead and plug in 15 for x, evaluate that out, and you should get about 3.51%. Okay, and then if I kind of look back at my table, 15 falls between 10 and 20, so my value should fall in here, and it does. Okay, so having a table is nice that you can check to see if your answer kind of follows the pattern. And one more. Example C, the population of Peru is represented by this table. Find an exponential model. Okay, well this one we don't have a lot of choices here for our ordered pairs, so I have to pick 0, 22.9. Okay, that's a must. And then I usually suggest one that's not right next to it, so the only other choice here is 17 and 30.1. Okay, so 17 is my A value, which is how much I start with. So my A value is 22.9. Then step 3 is to go ahead and solve that by substituting in our values. Again, you choose a point that is not your starting value for your x and your y. So instead of y, I've got 30.1. Instead of A, I've got 22.9. I don't know B, but I know my x value is 17. Okay? So again, solving for B, divide by 22.9. So I should get 1.31 equals B to the 17th. Again, you're always going to raise that to the reciprocal, so that's going to be to the 1/17th. Okay, so I'm going to get B to equal about 1.016. So my final equation is y equals 22.9 times 1.016 to the x. Okay, so part B says use the model to predict the population of Peru in 2013. Okay, the only thing you have to be careful about here is reading. Originally, they told us after 1993, which means we are going to plug in how many years? Oh, good job. We're going to plug in 20 years. Okay, so if we plug that in, we should get about 31.59 thousand. Okay, and remembering to label and read carefully. Okay, so that was fitting a model to data. Take a minute, write down what you're not sure about. Okay, for this question in the class tomorrow.